Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your hostess, femininity coach, and author of the Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So I found this really interesting video. This is a licensed therapist, a woman, obviously a Black woman, and she had some interesting observations. Now, you know what? I'm gonna save my commentary. I'm gonna let her speak, and then we're going to talk about it.
So I was talking to a male friend of mine the other day, and he told me that women don't apologize and women can't be held accountable. And I began to really think deeply about this idea. And one of the things that came across my mind is in the last 9 months or so of me being in my private practice, I have myself experienced many women, whether they came in as a couple or they came by themselves, they very abruptly discontinued their therapy. And I started to reflect and really think, what was going on here? And I noticed that after I had to confront them about something, I had to bring to their attention something they were doing that wasn't contributing to the health of the relationship, they became very defensive and very, just very harsh, and they stopped coming. And even though the husband would continue to come, he made it very clear that, yeah, she won't apologize. She thinks you're wrong. She thinks you're taking my side. And I began to really reflect like, oh my gosh, is it true that women don't apologize? Is it that women struggle with being held accountable? I'd love your thoughts on this. Me personally, I think it has to do with a person's level of emotional maturity. What do you think?
Okay, so I thought that was really interesting. This is a therapist that hasn't, I guess, been having her private practice or whatever very long. And this is after speaking to a male friend of hers who brought it to her attention. And as a therapist, and to a certain level as a coach, right? Because I'm not a licensed therapist, but I do coach people, and you get to hear how people think and how people process things. And it's interesting because um first of all, you have to, in order to help people and in order to talk to them, you have to get certain details, you have to know certain things, and you have to ask the right questions. And then once you ask the right questions, that is when you can really help them. Okay. It's not enough to allow somebody to just tell you their version of events. It's not enough to let somebody only tell you their perspective or their perception of a thing. That's where you start, right? You start with the person telling you what's going on, and you as the coach or the therapist has to understand that this is one side of that story, that the person that's telling you the story can only give you their perspective, right? So it's not necessarily rooted in deception. You as the person that they're coming to, you have to understand that they are speaking only from their perception and that you don't have the whole story just because they're telling you a story. Okay. So there are a lot of things that you have to infer. There are a lot of things that you have to think about. And then you have to ask the correct questions to them to get to the heart of a matter, because only when you get to the heart of a matter can you really help them to understand why they're having the problem that they're having, and how they can go about resolving the issues, whether those are issues just with themselves or more specifically issues within a relationship. Now, once you do that, okay, women do not like the accountability portion, Because once we get down to the heart of a matter, or we start digging and we start peeling back the layer of it, and even if you're saying, as the person that they're talking to, the person that they've come to, even if you're saying, you know what, I understand, because you never want to invalidate what somebody is saying. You want them to understand that they are being heard and that they are being seen properly, right? And that they're not being judged as well. But the real help comes when you start peeling back layers and you start finding this is how you're contributing to the situation. And it's important to discover those things, because a lot of times women can play victim. We play victim very well. Okay. But accountability comes in when you can't completely be the victim. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're the villain in the story, but you realize where your accountability is, because you have to be able to control what you can control. That's really where I try to get my clients to get to. You have to understand what you control and how you can control it, because you can't control other people. You can't control their responses. You see what I'm saying? You can only control your responses and how you behave in a situation. And you need to understand whether or not you're behaving badly in a situation or not. And so this young lady here is saying, after it was kind of brought to her, she kind of, looked back at that. Like, okay, has that been my experience with the women that come for my help? Okay. And she's realizing, yeah, that has kind of been my experience with that. They don't really like to take accountability because they'll stop coming to the sessions. They don't want to hear it. All of a sudden, when they were gung-ho, before we were peeling back these layers, everything was good. This was the best session in the world. And so then when we start peeling the layers back and seeing, what I'm saying, then it became, oh no, we can't continue this way. And a lot of women it's a couple of things I think that go into it. Women don't like to be judged. They don't like to be judged, and they don't like to feel judged. They don't like to feel that somebody is looking at them negatively based on their behavior or decisions or something that they've done. And women got to get over that, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody do things wrong. Nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? You're going to sometimes be in a mindset and a headspace where you're making bad decisions and then you're showing up bad. Whether that's in whatever relationship, a romantic one, a parental one, a friendship, a professional relationship. If you're showing up bad, then somebody got to tell you showing up bad, because that's the only way you're going to fix it. If somebody say, you're showing up bad, and not just chastising you about it, but saying this is how it's bad, this is why it's bad, and there's something that you can do about it. You can control how you show up. You control how you show up. And getting defensive, that's the number one thing, the defensiveness. Oh no, it wasn't like that, or no, how you gonna say, blah 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 blah. And it's like, no. This is what, and I'm getting this from you. You told me XYZ. You told me these details. You told me this information. I'm not pulling this information from nowhere, and I'm not twisting it. You told me that. Right? So now I'm asking the opposite question. Well, if that happened, well, what did you do in that situation? Like, how did you respond to that situation? And we don't ask these questions to judge you. That's not why we ask these questions. We ask these questions because if we don't get a full scope of the picture, because we don't live with you, we're not with you all the time. So we weren't there when certain events went down, and we're not in your head to know what you were thinking at a particular time in a particular situation. So we have to ask all the surrounding questions, right? To get to the heart of it. And then we have to use our insight, right, to understand, and our empathy to understand, and things of that nature, and our understanding of how people operate in general. Okay, this is likely what happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what happened, right? Where is that what you were thinking? Well, yeah, okay. Well, this is, if you do this often and you keep having a similar result and you don't like that result, this is why you're having this result, because other people are experiencing you this way, that way, da 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 da. Women don't like accountability. They think it makes them look bad all the time. And that's not always even what it's about. And even if it is about that, even if you look bad, do you want to stop looking bad? Do you want to stop having situations where you show up bad and you're the bad guy and you're the villain in the story? Because a lot of y'all want to be victims so bad, but some of y'all are villains, or worse yet, you're volunteers. So you don't even have to be the villain. You just being the volunteer for stuff is enough. And that mirror, that's a heck of a thing for a lot of people, specifically women. Looking in that mirror, that is tough. That is tough for a lot of you. Do not like looking at that mirror. If you are displeased with what you see when you look into the proverbial mirror, when you have to encounter yourself, or when you have to take into account other people's perception of you, because that matters. How you show up in the world, okay? That matters, because if you show up a particular way all the time, most people's experiences of you are bad, then you're giving off bad experiences. This is not just, well, this is just who I am. No. And if it is who you are, that's the problem. You need to change that. You need to figure out why you so mad. You need to figure out why you're upset. You need to figure out why you can't get along with nobody. You need to figure out why this don't work and that don't work. You need to figure out why you always in an argument. You need to figure out why you always in an altercation. Why people quote unquote don't do right by you. And it's always the other person. It's always the outside situation. It's always the external thing, never you. And see, that's not true. Most of the time it's us. Most of the time when we are experiencing different outcomes and we don't like those outcomes, it be because of something we're putting out there, whether it's intentional or not. And if it's not intentional, then you definitely need someone that's neutral to be on the outside looking in, that really don't have a dog in this race at all. You know what I'm saying? And say, I see the pattern. You don't see the pattern? What pattern? Because then you tell me in this situation this happened, and then this situation happened, and then that situation happened, and then that situation happened, and then in all them situations, but was the outcome, and you responded like that. You don't see that? That's a pattern of behavior. We don't know about that. Didn't think about it. So no, a lot of women do not like accountability, and this isn't anything that we don't know, right? Right? It's become more prevalent, especially with social media, especially with panels and podcasts and talks and videos and all that kind of stuff and conversations. When women's feet start getting held to the fire, they start falling apart. A lot of them have meltdowns. A lot of them are in meltdown mode. And it's not conducive. All that does is keep you in the delusion that you were in, that got you to a point where you thought you needed to come to a therapist in the first place. That's all that is. And that defensiveness is you not being ready to break that programming yet. There's something in you that's fighting that healing. It be that demon that got hold to you, that's got you in a specific space in your mind and in your heart, that's holding you back. It be fighting. It be in there scrapping, baby. And that's the struggle of the heel, to fight that demon. Don't let that demon win, because those thoughts, that defensive mechanism, That's what's keeping you in this problematic state. So I just thought it was interesting. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your hostess, The Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.